Welcome to this DVD on the installation process for the Centurion Vector swing gate operators. This program is designed to supplement the installation manual in your kit, but does not replace it. If you want more information on a particular section of the installation, just pause your DVD and the page number that appears in the bottom of your screen will show you which page you need to look at in the manual. Part 1. Kit Components. To start off your installation, first check that you have all the components of the system. The standard domestic kit will consist of the following components: 1 or 2 operators, depending on whether you are automating single or double swing gates. Each operator consists of the linear actuator, gate bracket pin and its snap ring, wall mounting bracket, wall mount pin and snap ring, a set of manual override keys and 2 warning stickers. If you plan to fit a piston guard, this comes as a separate kit consisting of the following: a piston guard for each operator, guard retainer, guard sleeve, guard cap, guard pin and snap ring, guard gate bracket. This is different to the standard gate bracket. The Vector kit also has a weatherproof housing containing the electronic controller, charger, strap for securing battery in housing, battery leads, the installation manual and user guide. There is another packet containing the remote controls, consisting of 2 4-button Nova transmitters and a Nova receiver in its own protective housing. Finally, there's also a separate 12-volt 7 amp-hour maintenance-free battery. Refer to the manual to make sure you have all the tools required to complete the installation. Part 2. Check the site. Before you begin the operator installation, you need to check that your gates are mechanically safe and ready to be automated. Also check the site. First, decide whether your gates will open inwards or outwards. If opening outwards, make sure that the gates when open or opening do not pose a risk to the public. Check that the gates swing freely and are supported by strong and secure hinges. The gates must also be correctly hung so that they do not swing open or closed of their own accord. You need to check the size and weight of the gates to ensure that they do not exceed the specification of the operator. Refer to the allowable gate mass tables in the manual. If you are in an area that is subject to high winds, please look at the wind loading tables provided in the manual. High winds and the type of gate you're motorizing could affect the performance of the operator. Make sure that the size of the gate pillars and the space where the operators will be mounted is within the allowable limits of the operators for the required gate swing angle. Refer to the minimum requirements provided in the manual. Check the condition of the wall or support posts on which you will mount the operator wall brackets. Depending on this, bear in mind our optional high security mounting kit or wall adapter kit that assist in strengthening the wall bracket mountings. For more information, refer to the section Strength of the Pillar in the manual. Also, check where the gate brackets are going to be fixed onto the gates. If there are no suitable horizontal struts for mounting the brackets, consider using the optional gate bracket adapter kit. This kit will also help strengthen the mounting on heavy gates or in high volume applications. If the swing gates are longer than 2.5 meters, it is highly recommended to fit an external electric or magnetic lock. Check whether you have a suitable spot to mount the controller enclosure, with easy access for the main supply and intercom lines to route into the unit, yet as close as possible to the operators. The external access control devices, such as keypads or key switches, if being used, must be positioned so that the gates are in line of sight of the operator. Please take note of all other site considerations and warnings provided in the manual. Part 3. Cabling. Before you proceed with the mounting of the operators, it is important to decide what cables you need and lay these first. A mains cable coming in through an isolator will be needed to supply power to the system. This isolator should not be more than 1 meter from the controller housing. The main supply must be fed via its own circuit breaker from the mains distribution board inside the house. It is always recommended to have the main supply to the system installed by a qualified electrician. If the installation involves 2 gates, you need to determine how to route cabling from the controller housing to the operator on the opposite side of the driveway. Ensure that the cable length is kept as short as possible. It is highly recommended that the motor cables are no less than 2 millimeters in diameter. If you are fitting an intercom and plan to trigger the operator from their handset inside the house, you will also need to install these cables. One cable running from the house to the controller housing and another from the controller housing to the intercom entry panel on the outside of the property. Allow for extra cores inside this cable so you can make use of the useful features supported by the Vector system, such as pedestrian opening, holiday lockout, gate status LED, and so on. Although the radio receiver can be mounted inside the controller housing, for optimum range, it is suggested you mount this externally and as high as possible. An extra cable will be required for this. It is always highly recommended that you fit infrared safety beams to the system, in which case you will need to allow for cabling to be routed from the controller housing to both sides of the driveway. Note also that you need 2 sets of beams, one across the entrance where the gates are closed and one across the entrance when the gates are open. If you want to operate the pedestrian opening feature at the gate, a separate cable will be needed between the controller housing and a key switch, or preferably a keypad. With a double swing gate system, only the master gate will open from the keypad. Therefore, if a pedestrian has to reach their hand through the gate to operate the key switch or keypad, it must always be mounted on the opposite side of the driveway to the master gate. Refer to the cabling requirements section of the manual for full details on the cabling. It's always a good idea to use screened cabling for better protection against lightning. Make sure that all screened cables are securely tied to earth. Part 4. Fitting the operator. The first step in fitting the operator is to determine the gate opening angle. You can do this by simply using the angle gauge provided in the operator installation section of the manual, or follow the procedure we're about to explain. Close the gate and measure 1 meter from the center line of the hinge, marking this point on the ground. Then open the gate and repeat the procedure. Measure the distance between your 2 marks and read off the swing angle from the chart at the back of the manual. To ensure optimum security and strength for the average gate, it is preferable to mount the operator at approximately the mid-height. In addition, the gate bracket should fix to a sturdy point on the gate, preferably a horizontal strut. Where there are only vertical struts to mount the gate bracket onto, consider using the optional gate adapter kit, which will spread the load across a number of struts. This kit will also help strengthen the mounting on heavy gates or in high volume applications. Having worked out at what height the operator will be, we now focus on mounting the wall bracket. Place the wall bracket against the wall or support pillar and measure dimensions A and B. In the case of this installation, we measure initially A equals 165 millimeters and B equals 270 millimeters. Turn to the operator installation table in the manual, and for the required gate swing angle, read off the value that A plus B should not exceed. In our installation with a gate swing angle of approximately 90 degrees, our maximum allowable value for A plus B is 380 millimeters. Take care to look at the correct gate setup tables depending on whether your gate opens inwards or outwards. Shift the bracket and/or pick different mounting holes to fit a position where A plus B is as close to, but less than, the maximum allowed. Also ensure that the dimensions A and B must each be greater than the value indicated in the table for the gate width. In this case, with the gate up to 2.5 meters wide, both A and B must be greater than 100 millimeters. It is important to note that large B values give good security and improve the closing push force on the gate. On the other hand, smaller values of A and B increase the speed of the gate. Ensure that the wall bracket is securely fixed in position. Particular care must be taken at this stage to ensure a reliable installation. Once again, refer to the section Strength of Pillar in the manual for guidance. With this installation, as we have used one of the inside holes of the bracket, we must cut the bracket just past this hole. This is critical, otherwise the operator will collide with the bracket when opening. We can also make use of the Meccano kit. Refer to the manual for more details. Fit the motor end of the operator to the wall bracket. Swing the gate to the open position. Unlock the operator and ensure that it is 1 or 2 turns of the actuator from being fully retracted. Fit the gate bracket to the operator and temporarily clamp this to the gate. Also check that you have the operator perfectly horizontal. Manually swing the gate closed, ensuring that it fully closes. Unhook the operator from the gate bracket and check that the actuator is not fully extended. If the operator does not have enough stroke, reduce the A or B distances by moving the wall bracket or selecting another mounting hole. Once the gate can swing open and closed fully, securely weld the gate bracket into position. With this installation, as we plan to fit piston guards, we must fit the gate bracket supplied with a piston guard kit. To strengthen each gate bracket on these heavy gates, notice how we have welded them first to the gate bracket adapter plates, and then onto the gates. If you are fitting piston guards, clip the assemble units onto the installed operators to complete the mechanical installation. Part 5. Wiring up. Now it's time to mount the controller housing. Preferably mounted away from direct sunlight at a comfortable working height. It should also be out of range of garden sprinklers and be easily accessible even when the gates are open. With the controller housing fitted, it's time to do the wiring. Before proceeding with the wiring, ensure that the main supply to the unit is properly isolated. The main supply terminates onto this removable green connector on the side of the charger. We always recommend having a qualified electrician to do the wiring on any circuits that exceed 42 volts. However, if you plan to do this yourself, ensure that it is done correctly. The live wire connects to the right-hand terminal, the neutral wire to the middle, and the earth to the left. Ensure that each wire is securely tightened into the connector terminals and that no part of the wires can short against each other. Secure the earth lead of the charger to the backing plate of the controller housing using the fastener for the charger support strap. The spade connector of the charger earth lead connects onto the controller here. Wire the operators to the controller according to the diagram in the manual. For the slave operator, mount a suitable junction box on the wall for joining the wires coming from the controller housing to the motor. A similar junction box must be provided for the master operator if its wires cannot connect directly into the controller housing. The surge protection provided by the unit relies on an effective earth. Besides ensuring that the main supply is properly earthed back at the distribution board, also tie the earth of the power supply and controller to the chassis plate. To improve the earthing at the operator, install an earth spike right next to the controller housing and connect this firmly to the chassis plate. In areas of high lightning, an additional high current arrestor could be placed on the mains ahead of the charger. The surge arrestor's earth must be well secured to the operator earth. As mentioned previously, all cabling should be screened to give better protection against lightning. Connect the battery leads to the controller without the battery connected and double check this connection. Plug in the charger and switch on the main supply. Finally, connect the battery leads to the battery, once again taking care of the battery polarity. With power on, it's time to set the gate limits. Part 6. Setting the gate limits. With the operators in manual mode, open the gates fully and secure the origin collars. Close the gates and lock the manual override. Now push and hold the setup button for 3 seconds. Select the limits menu by pressing the Enter key. The setup wizard will now begin. Simply follow the on-screen instructions to complete the procedure. Although in most cases you'll be able to leave the installation on the factory setup default, there are many other features which can be programmed into your controller. Please refer to the Additional Features section of your manual for information on these. To complete the mechanical installation on this site, we must clip on the piston guards and attach the warning decals to the gates. Part 7. Remote controls. The Nova rolling code remote controls must be coded into the receiver. Ensure that nobody is standing in the way of the gates when you follow this procedure, as the operators are going to run. With power connected to the controller, take one of the transmitters and press and hold one of the buttons for just longer than 5 seconds. The operators will activate when this transmitter has been coded into the system. This first transmitter becomes the master and is used for coding any additional transmitters. So please mark this transmitter clearly. To add any additional transmitters, proceed as follows. Press and hold any button on the master transmitter for slightly longer than 10 seconds. As an installation hint, if you don't have a watch available, count each second out loud from 1000. For example, 1001, 1002, up to 1011. Release the button. The receiver is now in program mode and will stay in this mode for 10 seconds. Take the next transmitter, and this is important, press and ring you want to use to operate the gates. The receiver stays in program mode for 10 seconds after each new transmitter is added. If you have no further transmitters to add, wait 10 seconds for the receiver to drop out of program mode. Test the transmitters to make sure that the coding has been done successfully. Part 8. Anti-crushing and safety beams. The Vector swing gate operators provide excellent anti-crushing protection. The protection only activates when the gates come into contact with an object. If the gates are opening, only the gate that is obstructed will stop immediately. The other gate will continue to open. However, when the gates are closing, if either or both gates are obstructed, both will stop and reopen. The anti-crushing sensitivity will automatically be adjusted to suit the gates. The manual provides more detail on this important feature, explaining the operation and the different levels of sensitivity that can be set should it be necessary. Safety beams are an optional extra with your operator. However, they are always recommended to provide greater safety by helping to prevent the gates closing onto objects in their path. Follow the instructions for mounting the CENTURION i5 infrared beams, which are provided with the unit. However, take note of the following. 1. There must be 2 sets of beams as shown. 2. Set the beams at the height indicated in the instructions. When wiring the safety beam to the Vector controller, ensure that the wire link between the infrared beam input safety close marked SAF-CLO and common COM is removed. Follow the wiring diagram provided under the section Wiring Diagram for Safeties in the operator manual. Part 9. The handover. The installer is the last person on site who can ensure that the operator is correctly installed and that the system can be operated safely. Moving gates can cause serious injury and even death, so please make sure that the customer knows how to operate the system and understands the safety features. Never assume the end user knows how to safely operate automatic gates. Obviously, children and pets may not be allowed to play near the gates. Ensure that the end user knows how to operate the manual release mechanism. Show how the obstruction detection and other safety features work. Finally, ensure that the customer is in possession of the user guide. If you have any problems with your installation, please remember that our engineers are always available to give you sales support, installation training, and answers to any technical questions or installation problems you might have. Our contact details are on the cover of your DVD and on the back page of your installation manual. Thank you for watching.